Hey guys, today we are talking about the area of parallelograms. We can use base times height or length times width to find the area of any rectangular shape. Squares are also rectangles, so we would just multiply their two sides together. Example, length times width is okay, or side squared for a square. So, a parallelogram though is not just a rectangle and a square. We have some shapes like this parallelogram right here. And one way that we can figure out its area is by removing this triangular piece and placing it over here like so. Now we have a rectangle. So as long as it's a true parallelogram in the sense that this side is parallel to this side is parallel to this side, then this triangle should always fit perfectly in this space. So if we look at a rectangle, the area is the length times the width, so you just multiply. It's also not just 5 times 8, but it's a foot times a foot, which gives you the feet squared. Okay, if we look at this shape, it's a square, we do the side squared. Again, same thing as length times width, because you're taking 7 times 7. And when you do that, you get 49 feet squared. All right, so you try. Go ahead and take a second. Make sure that you show the formula, your work, and your answer with labels. I'll be back in just a second to show you what I did. Okay, so you're going to take the length times the width, or the base times the height, which is 11 by 4. And this is not just 11, it's 11 feet. So please erase and make sure that you have that if you don't. 11 times 4 is 44, and a foot times a foot is a foot squared. Down here, area equals the side squared, which is the same as the length times the width. And when we do the side squared, that's 13 squared, or 13 times 13. And make sure that you also do the inches times the inches, and you get 169 inches squared. If you need to have the labels here to remember the inches squared, then do so. Okay, so now let's look at the parallelograms. Again, it's the base times the height. The area of the parallelogram is the product of both its base and its height. This is not its height. Okay, when you go to the doctor, you stand up straight, right? And they ask you to stand on the scale and they weigh you, and then you stand up straight and they measure your height. They're measuring from a perpendicular, which this means perpendicular, a right angle from the floor to the top of your head. So a shape follows the same rules. You measure perpendicular from the base at a right angle to the top of the figure. Okay, so I could literally take this height and move it over here, and it would still be its height. It would still even be its height over here. The problem lies is when people put a number here and they think that's the height, which it's not. Okay, so if we wanted to find the area of the parallelogram, it's base times height. In this case, when we're looking for the measurements, we have to count. On a coordinate grid, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is the base, and the height is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 6 times 8 gives you 48. And making sure that we have it written as 48 units squared. Remember, if we don't know inches or we don't know feet, then it's just in units squared. Okay. Now it's your turn. Why don't you try these two, and I'll be back in just a second to show you what I did. Make sure you write the formula first and then fill in the unknowns. So the area equals the length times the width, and go from there. Or you can also do the base times the height. In this case, that makes a little bit more sense. All right, so my base is 11, and my height is what's perpendicular, so this is 7. And 11 times 7 is 77, and these are meters squared. Over here, I'm going to circle those just so you see it. Over here, the height is 5, this 7 is unneeded, and this measurement is 10. So area equals the base times the height. In this case, this base is on top, but it's the same as if you were thinking of it on the bottom. So 10 times 5 equals 50, and these are feet squared. Okay, again, go ahead and try these. Find the missing dimensions, though, this time. So I'm going to show you an example. Find the missing dimension of the parallelogram. This time they give us the area. Okay, so we know the formula. We still write the formula first, and then we fill in the unknowns. We don't know the height, so leave that one, but we know the area is 45 and that the top is 9. Okay, so how do I solve this? Do you remember when we solved for things like this, but we called it x, 9x equals 45, and we did inverses and we divided by 9? That's exactly what you're doing here. You're finding the inverse of multiplication, which is division, and then you're dividing by the one that is with the variable to get rid of it. Okay, when you get rid of it, you get a total of 5. So the height of this shape is 5 inches. Okay, so in this one, you're again taking the area equals base times height. I want you to plug in what you know. You know A, and you know, even though this looks like it's the base, it's not. It's actually the height, because remember, the height is always perpendicular. So 8 is your height. Go ahead and try it, and I'll be back in just a second to show you what I did. Okay, so the area equals the base times 8. And we know the area is 96, so we have 96 equaling 8b. I flipped this around because I like to see it the way that we used to do it. So 8 times b, the inverse of multiplication is division, and I get b equaling 12 yards. Now notice that these aren't squared because this is the base. It's just a measurement. Okay, it's not the area. The area was squared over here, but these yards are singular. They are not squared because it's just a measurement. I can literally measure it with a ruler. I'm not filling it in. Okay, and that's all I have for you today, and I'll see you next time.